But first, our top story. Now, the Union Cabinet is meeting today in the South Block to decide on the budget session of Parliament, which is expected to be held early in June. The session is likely to be a week long and not 3 to 4 days as was earlier anticipated. The Parliament will meet to facilitate swearing in of the new MPs, election of the Lok Sabha Speaker and the President's address to the joint sitting of the two houses. Thereafter, the Parliament will break to meet in July to consider and pass the first budget of the Narendra Modi government. And my colleague Siddharth Pandey, who's tracking that cabinet meet, now joins me live from the capital. Siddharth, has that meeting just gone over, and what do we know at all? What details have emerged from it?
Well, in fact, we are being told that there will be an official briefing in a very short while, but sources indicating that the first session of the House will in all likelihood be between the 4th and the 12th of June. Those are the dates, and of course important work, not just the oath taking of the new members of the House, but what's really going to set perhaps the agenda for the government will be the all-important speech by the President. So in fact, that's something that was before the Cabinet for consideration, the Cabinet Ministers giving in their submissions, and of course Mr. Modi himself outlining what will be the main priority thrust areas for the government. And we definitely know that this particular government has underlined development as its main plank. So already on that talk of 100 new cities, not renewing the JNURM, which is the flagship program of the UPA government, that's something as well. So these are the kind of priority areas that the government wants to now push for, and that was also something that was discussed. This will feature later in the President's speech to the House, and that of course will also be debated. So the dates now between 4th to 12th is what we have been told. Of course, the official announcement to happen, and the cabinet meeting started at 11 this morning, and all the senior leaders of the government prioritizing what will be some of the areas that they'd really like to concentrate on. The government really hitting the ground running and wants to actually show that it's gotten off to a big start, and obviously has set the time frame for the big ticket projects.
And Siddharth, in fact, just as you mentioned, the government hit the ground running. 2 cabinet meets in 48 hours, they clearly mean business.
Oh, that's right. In fact, Mr. Modi has gone ahead and also told all his ministers that he wants them to also be accessible, to be transparent, to put out as much information as possible, even use social networking sites. So the message basically is that not only must the government now hit the ground running, but it also must communicate this effectively to the people out there, the fact that the government's really now serious about getting off the ground. Mr. Javadekar, who in fact has already taken charge as the Environment Minister, and he's expected to now brief the media at around 1 o'clock. He's already talked about the fact that there needs to be now a streamlining of the ministry to ensure that while environmental concerns are addressed, very often he said that in the past environment often is seen as a blockage to many of the infrastructure projects. That perception is done away with, but also obviously ensuring the need to protect the environment. So clearly, all in all, that's the message as far as Mr. Modi is concerned to all his ministers, that go ahead, make your priority lists. That's being discussed as well. That's going to figure in the President's speech to the House. And that's something that, of course, the Cabinet today on the agenda of the Cabinet, and the government going all out there to basically underline the fact that it's all business as far as the government is concerned.
And Siddharth, I know you mentioned that the cabinet briefing is going to be held in a few minutes from now, and of course that will give us the formal contours of what was actually discussed. But it's clearly, the first session is clearly going to be about a week long. What are the key points that they're looking at tabling in that first session?
Well, the main, of course, issue will be the as far as the dates are concerned. That's something that was discussed. 4th to 12th is what we are being told will be the first session. It will be the session where the new members will take their oaths. The speaker will be elected. Not just that, of course, there will be that all-important address by the President. And of course, after that, there is debate on that. And then after this session, it's going to be a week-long session, as you said. There will be another session in July, and that will be when the budget will come up. And that's going to be something very important, because the government clearly has set up several new areas, thrust areas. 3 ministers have already talked about now cleaning the Ganga as their priority area, cleaning the rivers. So that's going to be something that's going to require a lot of funds. We are talking about 100 new cities, many of them eco-cities, green cities. That's going to require investment. And of course, basically now streamlining government, merging those ministries, freeing up several coal blocks which seem to have been stuck in various environmental clearances, making all those crucial linkages. These are some of the things that the government really wants to work upon. So that's of course something that's going to figure prominently, not just in the president's speech, but of course later on when the budget comes up. Those are going to be priority areas that the government really wants to undertake. So these are some of the issues that the cabinet has discussed. And as you said, this is the second meeting of the cabinet, an important one, and of course the message being sent out that the government is in the saddle now and it's all out as far as is concerned. It means business and it wants its ministers to also effectively communicate that fact to citizens. Mr. Modi actually telling his ministers to go out there, effectively use the social networking sites to also communicate and also get responses from citizens as to what are some of the areas they feel the government should be looking at.
All right, Siddharth, also one of the key things that was going to be looked at in the cabinet session was the election of the speaker, because we know for now Kamal Nath will stay as the pro tem speaker until the new speaker is announced. Any word on that at all?
Well, two names again figuring there as far as speaker is concerned. Mr. Kariyar Munda, who was the deputy speaker in the earlier Lok Sabha, so his name is figuring, as well as that of Mrs. Mahajan. So that's two names there. So that's something that's also going to be talked about as far as the cabinet is concerned. They discussed. We are told that they discussed that as well. But officially, of course, as I said, we'll really have to wait for the official word to come from the cabinet. But these are the several issues which will be coming up, because that's something that they also have to do. The pro tem speaker, of course, is going to be Mr. Kamal Nath. He's going to be doing that job until the official election of the speaker is done. Big question will be who will be the leader of opposition. The fact of the matter is that the Congress by itself doesn't really have that 10% mark yet, so it does not really qualify for that. But that's something that will also have to be considered. Who ultimately will also play the role of the leader of the opposition, the election of the speaker, and of course the oath taking. These are some of the issues, items that will come up as far as the first session will be concerned. And of course the important one session will also be as far as the budget session, but that will be the one after they go for a recess. The government already underlining that as far as it is concerned, it's really hoping that to basically give a big thrust to creating jobs, to opening up several linkages, to basically now ramp up the power sector. That's something that Mr. Piyush Goyal also talked about. So these are some of the priority areas that have been discussed, and of course the cabinet also talking about that today.
All right, Siddharth, so we'll wait for that formal cabinet briefing in just a bit, but thanks, Siddharth, for all of those details.